Well, I love this time of the year on Twitter obviously the Diana Rossini thing is going on, which is a whole nother thing with the insiders and the experts and the sources. But when you look at all of the different mocks, you got Mel, you got Shefty, you got, Peter Schrager. You have the I call it, this is like the week of like the insider off, like it's the insiders versus the insiders, who's is right. And one thing that really stood out to me as I was scrolling Twitter, it was literally like back-to-back tweets. And it was one from this morning. McShay was on Part of My Take, and there was like a clip of him talking about how he thinks Ty Simpson will go at the end of round one. And literally, like, I scroll, and the next scroll I land on is Albert Breer on Dan Patrick going, Dan Patrick asked him, like, over under 1.5 quarterbacks. He's like, I'm taking the under, meaning like no Simpson in the first round. I was like, thanks, guys. We're trying to do a mock draft tonight. Like, thanks for the help there. Do we add Ty Simpson in? Do we not add Ty Simpson in? I think it's safe to say, don't get me wrong, for both of us, because you and I are not doing trades, we never do trades. I think it's pretty safe to say we don't have Ty Simpson in the first round. I think that would be pretty safe to say. That's my guess.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think you could make the case for both, because you could say if there's teams with multiple picks, they feel more comfortable spending their second first-round pick on a project than that being their only first-round pick. So, that argument could be made too. It all depends on the team, the need, and whether or not that opportunity. Who else is on the board? Yeah. There's going to be a lot there, but that's what I enjoy about these episodes. We go through it together, and we get to alternate these picks and kind of see how the board shakes out when it's all said and done between the two of us. So yeah, really excited about that. And obviously a couple big news items broke over the last couple weeks since we did take a week off there, but really excited for this week. We've got our mock draft episode here, and then we have our live draft show later this week. Excited to get some guests on and hang out. If you are listening or watching this and you want to be a part of that show, let us know. Shoot us a DM on social media or comment on our posts, and we'll get you the details to come and join us live on the show and give us some, real-time instant reactions to your team's picks or just any of the selections from the first round this upcoming Thursday. That starts 8 o'clock Eastern time. We will be here ready to go. But for now, the pick is in, I should say, and the football lounge is on the clock. All right, so before we get into the actual mock of the first round, we have to talk about a couple of things, namely one that shakes up this very draft that we're about to do here, Mark, and that is that the New York Football Giants did find a suitor for defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence. We talked about that being a possibility, that they were that he had requested a trade and kind of speculating on where he might end up going. I'm not sure anyone, including the New York Giants, thought that they were going to be able to get such a sweet deal for Dexter Lawrence, turning 29 years old. But the Cincinnati Bengals gave the New York Giants the number 10 overall pick in exchange for the All-Pro defensive tackle. And obviously, a lot of people talking about, well, you could have had, because they're going to have to pay Dexter Lawrence a large sum and get him that big extension. Could they not have just paid Trey Hendrickson and kept their number 10 overall pick? Obviously, they play slightly different positions, but still along the defensive line. Your reaction here is now the New York Giants have 2 picks inside the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my thoughts on it when we talked about the Bears. Like, it's a lot to give up for a player that I'm not 100% sold on that, he's going to be a crucial part of your next 5 years. When you look at a first rounder, you look at that 5-year window, right? They have that 5th-year option. That's what makes that first rounder so valuable. But listen, the Bengals, I think, could make the argument as the one of the few teams that it makes some sense to just say, we can't afford to draft an edge rusher and or a defensive lineman here or a linebacker and it not work out. Like, we need to maximize what we're getting right now with Joe Burrow. And Dexter Lawrence is definitely going to help them set the tone. And listen, Lawrence is a guy who wanted out of New York. Like, he wanted to get out of there. Cincinnati is going to be a completely different culture, going from NFC to AFC. I don't hate the move for Cincinnati because, again, they extend him. They add that extra year. So it's like a 3-year deal. And you're just going, screw it. We'll give up a first-round pick. We still have all of our other picks to make to add more depth and find a couple other starters in the second, third, and hopefully fourth round. But we know at least next year we're going to be more competitive than we were last year on defense with a Dexter Lawrence. I think he's a better player than Trey Hendrickson too. Like, I think he's and when you're talking like 1 through 100, I think he would find himself ranked ahead of a Trey Hendrickson. They're slightly different, in their positions.
You're probably right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so it's less money than you had to pay a Trey Hendrickson, and you get an impact player that can help you right away on that defense. And for the Giants, dude, what a pickup. 5 and 10. We're about to talk about all the teams that have multiple first-round picks. We have 6 teams picking twice in the first round. None better than the Giants setup. I wouldn't take the Jets 2 and 16. I would take the New York Giants 5 and 10. I think that's where the meat of this draft really is. Like, this first round and the elite talent, 5 and 10, they're going to be able to get 2 really, really special players. So you got to be pumped if you're a Giants fan. You move off an expensive aging asset and you end up with the 5 and the 10 pick. It's a really great move for them, especially with Harbaugh and resetting their clock, bringing in a new regime. Makes a lot of sense. I don't know if we've lost you, Dan, or not. I think he jumped out and he's jumping back in. We were having a little connection issues. As I mentioned, 6 teams having multiple first-round picks. The Jets have 2 and 16. Dallas has 2 and 12 and 20. Miami has 11 and 30. KC 9 and 29. Certainly needed for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then, of course, you have the Browns at 6 and 24. And as I mentioned, the Giants. Dan's texting me. Just stand there. I'm on. Yeah, I'm on. I'm just gonna reply to Mr. Vasco here as we wait for him. Is he coming back? Or he's officially out? So listen, I think some of the other news we wanted to cover here as we were going to get going on it. The other one obviously being Danielle Hunter getting a huge deal. He's now the highest non-paid quarterback in the NFL, 3-year, $50 million a year, $150 million guaranteed. Listen, for the Texans, that defense carried them through the playoffs this year and led them to a place their offense wasn't getting them. And obviously the regression of CJ Stroud is talked a lot about. They still haven't totally opened up the books for CJ Stroud. And so you have an opportunity to get Danielle Hunter locked up with Will Anderson to fortify that defense. I think it makes a ton of sense for them. I think it's a absolute okay, Dan's just rebooting his computer here, trying to get a better connection. I think it's a great thing for the Texans. It's a lot of money to pay for a defensive end, but he's a stud, and it's the type of position right now that's where the money is going. And for him to be the highest paid non-quarterback, Dan is back. I was just talking about Danielle Hunter. Moved on. I did mention, if you had any other thoughts on the Dexter Lawrence, Bengals, Giants, 2 first-round picks, I think it's one of those rare, I get it for both teams, for the Giants to reset their culture with a new head coach and, getting someone out of the building who clearly is he doesn't want to be here. He's making it.
Sure.
And you get number 10 overall for him. How could you say no to that?
Yeah, I think for the Giants, that's the biggest no-brainer. It's a major deal for them. I think they come out on the winning side of this situation altogether, to be honest. That doesn't mean it's a terrible deal or anything for the Bengals. It could be. We'll find out probably a little bit, later down the road once we see how this plays out. But the Bengals did obviously have this as a position of need. The interior of their defensive line has been an issue for many, many seasons. And so you get a pass rushing specialist who was good against the run in Trey Hendrickson, and you replace it with a big body run stuffer and interior pass rusher in a division that likes to run the ball, and in a division with so many great pass rushers on the other side of it, and you want to be able to contend. The deal is that I'm sure they came to a point where they're like, Trey is just not going to be here. That's just the situation of it. How do we remedy this and make sure that the wheels don't fall off completely? And this is one way to do it. So they probably didn't feel that anyone at 10 was going to be there. We'll talk about that when we get into this mock, that there's some great edge rushers, but the top 2 may be gone by the time we get to number 10 for Cincinnati. So they were in a situation where they can go get an all-pro. But man, the Giants, this is going to be fascinating to see what they do with their 2 picks, because there are just so many opportunities to fill so many needs. So it'd be really important for them with how they use this. But
what about Danielle Hunter?
So Will Anderson, actually.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
With the major contract. Yeah. Which Danielle, I mean, they're both incredible. But yeah, Will Anderson resetting the market, $150 million of just a 3-year deal, $50 million a year, the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. We, see these get reset every year. Will Anderson, the latest. That's a lot of money, $50 million. But you're talking about a guy who, since he came into the league, was immediately a top 5 edge rusher, defensive end. And now we're talking about locking him up for at least the foreseeable future. It also comes with a no trade clause, which is fairly rare, especially in these shorter term extensions. But I think all in all, it was smart for Houston to just get their best player locked up.
I was so thrown off by you logging off. I was calling it Danielle Hunter's extension, not Will Anderson's extension.
I imagine that's a common mistake.
And then as far as the other piece of news I had mentioned really quickly while you were gone, there was the kicker Brandon Aubrey getting a new deal. I didn't have the specifics on that, so I was waiting for you. So what's the news on that?
Yeah, so it's $7 million per year with 20 guaranteed. It's a 4-year extension. Okay. So he is the highest paid kicker in history at that $7 million average yearly value. So pretty big stuff. That's going to be huge from the Steelers' perspective. Chris Boswell is due an extension, and that's going to have to happen this year. So now we know what they're going to what the price is going to be, because Boswell and Aubrey have been the top 2 kickers, I would argue, over the last few years. And so Boz is now going to draw.
Yeah.
It's got to be somewhere close. Aubrey's a much younger kicker, so maybe the Steelers can, work that into their negotiations. Like, hey, you're on the back 9 of your career, so we can't give you that. But it's going to have to be pretty close, I'd imagine. But yeah, a lot of money. Granted, he's been the Cowboys saver quite a few times.
I think that's also an example of the cap going up. Like, the cap just exploded again. Listen, you can make the argument for what he has become for Dallas. If he even is 90% of what he's been the last 2 years for the next couple years of this contract, he is an absolute game-changing weapon in that dome. And with so many teams, moving into domes and their schedule, it's it's hard to say a kicker is worth that much money, because I think back to Cody Parkey getting that big deal with the Bears, and then it just completely falling apart. And the Bears have been pretty cheap with kickers ever since. Cairo, they keep getting good deals with Cairo. So it's.
But the Robbie Gould deal for San Fran was a good one.
And the Bears were paying Robbie Gould a good amount of money too. It's one of the reasons why they didn't want to resign him when the new regime took over. But that being said, I just think that's, to me, that number, when I first heard it, when I first saw that scrolling through Twitter, was like, oh, that's a cap sign. Like the cap exploding, you're allowed to now easily pay a kicker that type of money and feel okay about it.
Yeah, 20 guaranteed is a lot for a kicker. So kudos to him. And yeah, we're resetting the market once again. The final bit of news before we dive into the mock draft, because I really want us to get into this, is that AJ Brown, the rumors have continued to circulate that the Eagles are open to trading him. It seems like a foregone conclusion that it's going to happen before the season comes. The Patriots are still the top contender for AJ Brown. But the latest news is that this is unlikely to take place before the draft, which for the longest time is what was speculated to maybe make a blockbuster move on draft day. That is not going to happen. But yeah, still to be seen if there's a reunion on deck for AJ Brown and Mike.
Yeah, Schefter tweeting it today, kind of picking up where Rossini left off. Justice for Diana Rossini if this AJ Brown trade does go through eventually. I will give her the credit for breaking the story. I'll say this. I think I would have loved if this happened before the draft, but it does influence. If it feels like all signs are pointing to AJ Brown getting traded, I think it certainly influences what Philly's going to do here at 23 in our mock draft, and definitely what the Patriots are going to do at 31. Wide receiver is a need for both. And, for Philly, you're looking more for that like third option slot, good possession receiver. But if you get rid of AJ Brown, you could argue you're looking for an AJ Brown type, a big over the top, number one, or a really good, B to complement Devontae Smith if you feel like he could take that step. And for New England, obviously, that would eliminate the biggest need. New England's got a core of wide receivers that are nice, but adding an AJ Brown helps the pecking order hugely there.
Yeah, totally.
All right, here we go. Look at this.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, we got the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator here. As we've done in years past, Mark and I will alternate picks, and we each get one override per draft. So if Mark is selecting for the Titans and he picks a player that I feel very strongly will go to the Titans, I get to use my one override and say, nope, actually, we're going to have this player go to Tennessee here. That's what I think would fit best, and kind of reset the board. But we each get one of those. Otherwise, we are alternating picks. Mark, I believe are you starting us with odds? And I know the Steelers and Bears are both even this year, which in the years past, we've always had the benefit of them being one or two, but we'll still work through the picks together.
Sure, I can start with odds. That's fine. You give me the easy one. It's going to be Fernando Mendoza, number one. I'll just say this about Fernando. We talked quarterbacks the last time we were on. The more that I was doing for this draft process and really digging into a lot of the analysts or experts were saying, the more I feel confident that, listen, Fernando is not Caleb Williams. Like, he is not Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck, the recent guys who went number one. We are like, holy smokes, that is a generational talent that we have been scouting for multiple years, and it's now his time to go number one. It feels a lot more like a guy who just certainly peaked at the right time and other things kind of fell apart, right? You know what I mean? Nussmeier having a down year, Drew Aller falling off the map, and him really stepping up big. And again, the questions I have about Fernando are not in the big moments. If you look at all the big moments, he was terrific. But there's a lot of weird second quarter interceptions or a random third quarter pick six. Where you're like, what is he really doing there? And then when you add that on to the fact that he's not a generational talent. We're not talking about Josh Allen. You know what I mean? We're not talking about that. Even a Kyler Murray, we'd argue that's a generational talent. It's the right pick. I think he's going to be a successful NFL story. But I'm not sitting here going like this is a home run and look out in, he's going to break Jane Daniels rookie records. You know what I mean? I just don't see that type of rise. I think it's still going to need a lot of work for Fernando Mendoza and that organization, where so much of your success in the NFL goes to where you land. There's a lot of work from that organization to really become a stable, supportive organization to help him achieve his ceiling.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, he's got a good head coach now in Kubiak, who knows how to work with quarterbacks and is that side of the ball. So he has that going for him. He's got now a mentor in Kirk Cousins, who's been there, done that, both from a financial and business side of things, but also success on the field, similar styles of play as well. And then on top of it, he's got the leadership qualities that you look for in a NFL quarterback. So there's no questions about that. And he's a winner. Being a winner is not the end all be all for sure. We've seen Brady Quinn and Tim Tebow. That was, Tim Tebow was the consummate, winner. But you need more, of course. But Fernando won with a bunch of 3 stars, around him. So, when Tim Tebow was winning, the Florida Gators were unbelievable. That was the class of college football. So for Fernando to do what he did, and he had success at Cal.
Yeah,
too.
The starts are a great positive.
Good looking,
great positive for him. The amount of starts. It's the biggest negative for Ty Simpson with me is when you look at guys who have 9 career starts. The list for successful guys with that little starts it's not very long, and in fact, it's kind of ugly. Mitch Trubisky had 13, and that was considered that's not enough starts. And we all saw what happened with Mitch. It was just a guy who never really felt like he could, at the elite level, be a day in, day out, really good starting quarterback.
Yeah.
All right, where you going?
All right, so we got the New York Jets here on the clock. They have obviously a lot of needs. They were atrocious last year. Infamously didn't record an interception all season long. Part of that, I think, is due to a lack of a quality pass rush at times. So I think, look, that one of their biggest needs is edge rusher, and we're staring down 2 of the best edge rush prospects in recent memory over the last couple of years. And I think personally, while David, the conversation between these two, David Bailey from Texas Tech and Arvell Reese from Ohio State, is one has this ceiling that is unmatched in Arvell Reese, right? A super athletic, incredibly great prospect, but not as much immediate production. Whereas Bailey has been almost like stepping in ready to be a pro from the jump. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting in terms of the, juxtaposition between the two. I think for an Aaron Glenn being on the defensive side of the ball, for the Jets being in a place where they are not looking to win tomorrow. I'm sorry. It's just not, if they're being realistic, this is about building pieces. I'm going Arvell Reese here because I think you just got to take shots. And he's a guy that at the very least is someone that could be considered to have the highest ceiling of the draft class, and maybe even if he was in last year or the year before, would be in the top 5 discussion too.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I think that's a great. I think that's the pick I would make. I like Bailey a ton. I have real concerns about the length, the arm length thing. That's something that people have been talking about. Ruben Bain is another guy who's slightly undersized. It's one of the things that they're talking about with him. To me, Arvell Reese is he's the first of what could be 4 Ohio State guys in the top 10. Ohio State is just littered with dudes. And I agree with you. Yeah. When you're talking about what this Jets team needs, I can make the argument you could go with the other stud, best in his position from Ohio State in I would say Sonny Styles, the linebacker, because Sonny Styles, you're talking about a defensive guy, with that culture of being okay, this guy has the next Fred Warner written all over him. And yes, you need a pass rush, but you also just need someone out there who's can be the adult in the room. And Styles is not just pro ready. He's a pro ready and he's a freak. So I like the pick there, Reese. I think that's the smart, safe choice for them. I'm with you there. I get to go to Arizona. Sure. Arizona edge is obviously an issue. O-line is an issue. One of the things about O-line in this draft that I really think is going to, I've heard and from the people I trust, is there is about 7 tackles that are like first or second rounders, and the drop off is pretty big after that. And so there could be an absolute run on tackles because of that fact. And so I'm tempted to go tackle here. I do think, though, Arizona, they are in a division that is a really, really tough uphill climb. It's an offensive coach. All right. I'm going to go with Love. I think they go with the running back. I think it's the offensive coach. Listen, I've heard a couple different things here. No, they have running backs. You know what I mean? They just got what's his name from Atlanta. You obviously have Connor coming back, but Jeremiah Love is a really, really special player. It's an offensive coach who I think is going to get a real leash here for the next couple of years. And I just think you can look at this as a franchise that struggles, doesn't have, recent success and historical success. You can say to yourself, listen, I know we don't have the quarterback figured out yet, but we have an elite tight end. We have a young wide receiver core that with Marvin Harrison Jr. and guys that we really like. If we add that piece of the running back, when we have our chance to find our quarterback, this thing is going to be really plug and play, and our offensive scheme, it'll feel like Atlanta down there, where it's just like you're going to have guys everywhere. So I think Jeremiah Love's going to go higher than people think, and I think it's a really good spot for him there at 3 in Arizona.
For sure. Yeah. Look, I don't think it's a wrong pick, and I don't think it's bad. I think, most people would agree Jeremiah Love is a top 3 player in this draft period. He's extremely skilled and talented. My only concern for Arizona would be by the time this guy is good is when we hope to just be getting good. And then we're paying a running back. But to that point, if they don't find their quarterback for a couple of years, they can pay Jeremiah Love, because at that point they'll have 3 years of a cheap quarterback, and they'll be paying Jeremiah Love Christian McCaffrey money or whatever it ends up being, Saquon money. And they can kind of, anchor it. At least that quarterback will have a clear top weapon. No questions asked.
I just struggle with, we've seen it happen more and more in the NFL. Teams turn around really quickly. And so if they get the coach and they believe that this is the coach, right? Arizona to me is poised to be that team that sneaks back into the end of the first round and gets Ty Simpson, right? And if you say to yourself, okay, now we get this thing moving. I just think if you're LaFleur, you come in here and you say, they're a running offense. LaFleur comes from that Shanahan tree. His brother came from the Shanahan tree, the McVay tree. They love a featured back who can catch the ball in the backfield. And Jeremiah Love is that. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's a lot more. I think it was Tom McShay who was the one who compared him to Bijan Robinson. He is really, really, 10 yards a catch, something like that for Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame. This guy is a 4-down back. He can be special. Yeah. And when you have Tyler Algiers there and Connor, I get it. But to come in and say he's going to be our guy, and listen, we're going to be a run first offense and really establish what this system is going to be. I think it could be the right pick for Arizona. And again, if they take a defensive, I would probably go edge, or that would be the other thing, right? But I'm gonna say, listen, they're gonna surprise some people and go Jeremiah Love here.
The Tennessee Titans are on the clock at 4, and I'm already going to go a route that's probably going to be.
Would you have gone Love if he was still on the board? Because I feel like he's a spot.
Yes, 100%. In most of the mocks that I've done, I've had Jeremiah Love going to Tennessee. I think it'd be a great fit. It's tough for them because they Robert Saleh has a lot of opportunity there to kind of mold his defense with some great defensive prospects at the beginning of this draft too. But I think Jeremiah Love would be too much to pass up. But since he's gone, they've obviously, to me, they've got two real glaring opportunities in David Bailey or Sonny Styles. And you mentioned Fred Warner, and who coached Fred Warner? It was one Robert Saleh. I think I'm going to go Sonny Styles here for a team as well that needs they need a kind of do-it-all player to kind of lead and be the captain of their defense. And you get that a lot more out of the linebacker position. Of course, anybody can be that role. But when you're talking about who's wearing the green dot, this is a guy that's going to be calling your defensive plays for you. And I just feel like Robert Saleh would love to have this be his voice in the defensive room for years upon years down the road. Not to mention he's just a thumper that fits what Robert Saleh wants to do. And, and has that athleticism to be able to carry with the tight ends of today and to cover. So he's got the complete package and, former safety. It's got like that Brian Urlacher type of, transition as well that I think has we've seen work out quite a few times, but this guy just makes incredible plays and so he'll be a fortress there in the Titans backfield or linebacker.
I love it.
I should say.
I love it.
We got the first of you can.
No, I love it.
Too,
I think it's exactly what I would have done. If the draft shakes out like this, I love Sonny Styles there. I would say if Jeremiah Love is still on the board, I would go Jeremiah Love at Tennessee. I think again that influences Saleh knowing that, listen, I'm not going to get fired. I'm only going to get fired after 1 year if Cam Ward in this offense still looks like crap, right? Like that has to get better. And Brian Daboll, I think, could go in there and say, listen, what we need to do is go get the Saquon Barkley for this offense. Let's go. We need to go get that type of guy, and Jeremiah Love can be that guy. So I like Sonny Styles there a ton. All right, the Giants at 5 here. I think it's interesting. Lot of holes. I feel like this could be where our first offensive tackle goes. I feel like this could be a spot for a wide receiver as well. I think New York, they have holes. They need players. I think Styles would be a fit here too. I'm going to go though with David Bailey. I think this is where they go and get someone who at 6'4", 250 is a real playmaker and is someone who Harbaugh is. Yeah, he's a special teams guy, but what were those Ravens teams known for all those years there too? There was a defensive mentality. I think they can look this in the mirror and go, we feel like we just got maybe the best edge rusher in this draft at 5. I think like the Giants fans and the brass and Harbaugh would be really happy with that if that's the way it shakes out.
Yeah. I think they'd be really bummed that Sonny Styles didn't fall here because that's been my pick to the Giants as well, because John Harbaugh has historically had those great linebackers to kind of lean on. And so that would be really helpful. But yeah, if Bailey at this point has fallen to 5, the Giants are running to the board with this pick. It's just too much to pass up on at this point. Great value. And they've got one coming up in 5 picks. The Cleveland Browns are on the board. There's probably a couple ways they can go here. This is a team with a lot of needs as well. Don't know if they've completely figured out their quarterback position. They don't really have many weapons outside of, David Njoku is a good tight end.
Well, wait, didn't he even?
Which he's on the move.
I think he went to
gone.
Atlanta
Yeah. So their best weapon, arguably last year, is on the move, and they just are desperate for dynamic play from that position group. This is what they were looking for when they made the trade to get Odell Beckham Jr. so many years back and get Jarvis
It
Landry.
looks like he re-signed with Cleveland.
Oh, he did. Okay, I thought he was on the move.
Too.
So yeah, that's one thing we missed right there. But so nonetheless, the wide receiver room leaves a lot to be desired. Carnell Tate seems to be the move here.
Okay.
A big play receiver, an tall, 50-50 catch kind of guy, and can just be that reliable outlet that they're going to need to have somebody there that they can get the ball to on 3rd and 5, but also get that big play downfield, the sideline catch. They just haven't had dynamic play from this position in a long time, and I think they go after it here.
That's a killer for Washington. I like the pick there for the Browns. That's a killer for Washington. I think Washington. I was hoping you weren't going to say him. I was about to say that name. And
you can use your override.
It's just too early. It's just I can't do that. Yeah, I think. Listen, okay. If I'm Washington now, I'm looking at this board and I'm going, what do I do? Offensive line is not a desperate need for Washington. I do think they need a wide receiver, but do they go back to back and risk that kind of? But there's also then if there's a run on wide receivers, they're in real trouble. By the time it gets back to them in round 2, and I do think there's some other wide receivers who are worth taking this high. I think they also need help on the defensive side of the ball, though. I think they also need someone who can get pressure and be a real star on defense. So I'm going to go Ruben Bain Jr. here. I think they'll take the edge rusher, Ruben Bain. I think it's a position of need. He is a really, versatile player. He's not the long, 6'6" edge rusher. He's 6'3", 270. You can move him inside, move him outside. I think Dan Quinn can get creative with Ruben Bain. I've seen him fall, into the teens. I've seen him as high as in the top 5. And so he's one of those, it's kind of all over. I think the right team falls in love with him. I don't know if that is Washington. This draft just struck out. I can't see Washington taking the second wide receiver off the board at 7. And I think that would really kill them. There's 3 or 4 names there that Washington would have loved to have picked that weren't there, but I think they'd be pretty well off to end up with someone like Ruben Bain at 7.
For sure. Yeah. Now I was, debating with maybe like a Caleb Downs there, but I
wouldn't hate that.
Yeah. I don't take much issue.
Safety is just so tough
there at all.
That high up.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got the Saints now at number 8.
Yes, you do.
A lot of needs here too. We're talking about a team that could use help with wide receiver, could use a lot of help on defense, could use help on the offensive line. Look, if they really want to push their chips in with Tyler Shuck, or at least give him the most runway to be successful, I think that's going to start with either surrounding him with more weapons or at the very least keeping him protected. We haven't had an offensive lineman go off the board yet in the first 7 picks. I think that changes here. And I'm going to give the Saints Francis Mauigoa from Miami, the offensive tackle who has the versatility to move inside. And so I think they have a bigger need at guard than they do at tackle, but they can use him at either position. So they have the flexibility with him, and he, to me, he's probably the best offensive lineman.
I would agree.
Draft. And so they're sitting there looking at the best O lineman at number 8. I think they're pretty happy.
Yeah, he's number 1 on my list. I like that. I like that a lot. As we go to Kansas City at 9.
Yeah, that would have been a
good fit. Kansas City.
He's just super powerful, man. Like he'll set the tone. He's one of those
Absolutely. I
players.
mean, listen, Kansas City can't. It's tough. Like you think, oh, they're in a blessed to be in this spot. They can go best available. Not necessarily. You know what I mean? They don't have that type of luxury. I do think though they need a corner. Like it is their biggest need. My number one corner is still on the board, and I don't think at 9 it's too high to take Jermon McCoy.
Keeping in mind they've got.
I
Okay,
like
yeah.
McCoy as my number one. I like his size. He's of the top guys. He's the one who's at 6'1", 188 in that division. I think size is important. And listen, in that scheme, I think anyone can be successful. They need an edge rusher. If one of those top 3 guys was still on the board, I would take them here. You know what I mean? A David Bailey. Obviously, Arvell Reese, I think, would be gone by then. I think Ruben Bain, like they would have jumped on any of those names, and it wouldn't shock me if that's actually the way it shakes out. I think McCoy, though, is a really nice get for them here at number 9. He's my number one corner. I know Mansour, and I have even heard some people like Terrell from Clemson as high as a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
So
for sure,
corner. They're going corner.
I like it. They really need that, and if they wanted a receiver, looking at this board, they're like, okay, top 10. We've got one receiver that's gone. We have a pick coming up in 13 picks. There's not going to be most likely a top tier corner available, but given the depth of this wide receiver class, you'll probably be able to get a wide receiver you like if that's the route you want to go if you're Kansas City, right? So like you got to be thinking about that too. Unless there's a guy there just we cannot miss and have to take. So I like that one a lot. So we got the Giants back here. They took David Bailey, the edge from Texas Tech. Do they dare go defense with 2 straight picks inside the top 10? That is a tall ask, especially when they're staring at, potentially guard or wide receiver. They still don't have that middle linebacker type of position to fill. But there's not, if we're looking at the board here, there's not a lot of top 10 offensive guards. Ione would be I'm probably butchering his name. But that would be maybe the next one I would say in terms of interior.
Who's left do they have as their top overall players?
Caleb top overall players we're sitting at with Caleb Downs, which is that's what I would struggle with a lot, because Caleb Downs is one of those guys that's you talk about a absolute monster there in the secondary, hard hitter, incredible player, can really play all over the field. And a lot of people like he's a playmaker. I've seen a lot of the comps are Eric Berry or Earl Thomas. I've seen as being the comps for him, and he's very versatile. I like him a lot, and I would be super tempted if I was New York to take him here. But I think it's going to be hard sell to go back-to-back defensive players when they've got a lot of other opportunities here and trying to protect Jackson Dart. I think they got to go Spencer Fano.
I like here, Spencer Fano,
who's just a stud. And I know that they needed more interior than tackle help.
They're starting.
You can never have enough tackles, and you can never have enough offensive linemen in the NFL. And when you got a guy like Fano here, he's really, really good. You could argue that he's the best offensive lineman in the class. I think him and Mauigoa are the 2 top ones. So look, the Giants were the most sacked team last year in the NFL. Jackson Dart was taking strays left and right. You got to invest in this young man's protection at some point. And as we know, tackle, guard, those are at a premium, especially in the first round. So when you can take one that's worth
Yeah.
that pick,
yeah, and they need it. Like, I think it's their right tackle is kind of just a journeyman swing guy. I mean, they have one tackle solidified, but if you're Harbaugh, you can walk away and say, hey, listen, in the top 5 picks, we got a playmaker on each side of the line. You know what I mean? Like offensive and defensive. That's how you build a program. Miami, listen.
Now we'll see if this starts some sort of run for offensive linemen too, because the pressure's on now.
Miami
in the middle.
Certainly could use some offensive line help, but I think Miami is just a team at 11. If they're here and they're looking to go, we got nothing, right? And we have a new head coach as a defensive guy. I think he's going to look at Caleb Downs and say, give me a star. Give me a believe he's still here at 11. And I think that's an easy one for me that Caleb Downs is still there. They have a need at safety. And you just take a player like that and you're going to make it work, especially with Hafley and his defense. I like that. I like Downs being there available for Miami there at 11.
Yeah, I think that's a really good fit. And Miami's in this complete stage of total rebuild. I mean, they don't have their quarterback figured out necessarily. They're hoping Malik Willis is going to pan out. They're missing weapons on the offensive side now that, Jalen Waddle's gone. We don't know what we're going to get out of Tyreek. Devon Achane is holding out currently, although he has reported to the facility, so there's no bad blood there, but there's a lot of question marks there. And so you can just focus on the defensive side here where Hafley is known to thrive and produce some really quality units. This would be his version of like the Sonny Styles that Robert Saleh is going to get to work with in Tennessee per this board. So really like the pick there. Man, the Dallas Cowboys are up. They need a lot of help across the board, but that secondary is brutal, right? And we're looking at a situation where they may think that the best cornerback in the class is staring them right in the face right here in Mansour Delane. And so I think we're going that route here for the Dallas Cowboys. Offense just shouldn't be the route, I don't think, for them here. They've had too much missed with the Micah Parsons trade, with the lack of turnovers and dynamic play. Got to go get a guy, especially one as intelligent like Delane is just a really, really smart player and can really play man and zone. So he fits the mold for a guy that can be your anchored corner for years and years to come.
Yeah, I love the pick. I think a lot of people would argue he's the top corner. I mean, when you talk about Terrell, Delane, and McCoy, it's a little bit of, with corners, it's like wide receivers, right? It's kind of, what do you look for? Are you looking for the 6'3" guy? Are you looking for the 5'10" guy? Are you looking, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit of pick.
And he's got some size. He's got some size, and you're talking about a division where he's going to have to go up largely against Terry McLaurin, Malik Neighbors, and potentially A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith at the worst. So, like, they need someone that can go toe-to-toe with some of those guys.
All right, the Rams, one of their 2 picks here in the first round. Or no, they traded the other one, so they're down to 1.
The player that I've seen most mocked to them is available. And
I'm wondering
I just don't know. I'm curious to see like which route you go.
So I've seen a player mocked to them a couple times, but it just doesn't feel like it's the biggest need. Now, again, this is a team that doesn't really have a ton of needs, right? They could take kind of best available. And I got to be honest, they're a team that I think is also looking at their star receiver just getting out of rehab. And we don't really know legally, like he could face some issues this year. I think the Rams make a first-round pick, and I think they go Mekhi Lemon. I like Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver from USC. I have him as my number 2 receiver on the board. I think he also offers the Rams something a little bit different. And he can work with Puka and Devontae, right? He can work with them. But I also think if they choose to move on from either or both of those guys in the next offseason, a year from now, because Devontae's age and Puka, because they just don't want to give Puka the money for the problems he's been causing, I think the Mekhi Lemon is a really great fit in Sean McVay's system. Is the player that you had seen mocked a bunch, is it the tight end, Sadiq?
No, it was
Okay.
Mekhi.
So
Yeah,
I've seen Lemon, and I've
um,
seen a couple that like them going Sadiq, and I get it because like the Rams have a bunch
I
of
could see
good
it,
tight ends, but they don't have like an elite tight end, and you can make the argument.
but they also don't use the tight end that
And
much in the
again,
passing
that's
game, right?
like
Like,
right, but again, I think
yeah,
they're saying to themselves, if they don't know what Puka's status is, all of a sudden, if you have a stud tight end, what could McVay do with a weapon like that? So it would be interesting. It'd be interesting. But
sure.
I'm going to go Mekhi. He's right there, homegrown USC. You just put him in a Rams uniform, and you're going to make it work.
All right, so we'll real quickly recap where we're at up to this point. Fernando Mendoza, number 1 to the Raiders. Arvell Reese, the edge from Ohio State, to the Jets. Jeremiah Love, first running back off the board, and likely only running back of the first round, but we'll see, to the Cardinals. Sonny Styles to the Titans at 4. At 5, New York Giants select David Bailey, the edge from Texas Tech. Then it's Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State, to the Browns. Reuben Bain Jr., the edge from Miami, to Washington. Francis Mauigoa from Miami, the offensive tackle / guard, to the Saints. Jermod McCoy to the Chiefs, the corner. And then the Giants, with their second pick, take Spencer Fano, or Fano, however you pronounce it, the offensive tackle there from Utah. Then it's Caleb Downs to the Dolphins, Mansour Delane to the Cowboys, and Mekhi Lemon to the Rams. That brings us number 14, the Baltimore Ravens. I personally am feeling tackle or wide receiver for Baltimore. You know, new coach in town. It's there's a premium to be put on giving Lamar Jackson what he needs to succeed. That being said, you've got, a defensive minded head coach. So we can go multiple routes there, but given the wealth of talent here and the ability to secure a dynamic athlete that they've missed so much. Now, Zay Flowers has been great, right? But like some of our top availables are Jordan Tyson, and then there's that drop off at wide receiver. Really, if we go like further down, obviously these are just the rankings they have on Pro Football Network. But Omar Cooper, Casey Concepcion, and it's Denzel Boston.
Yeah.
Boston. They've got all the way at 34. I like Denzel Boston a lot. So I think there's a lot of options there. I'm going to go, though, with Jordan Tyson. They desperately need to get more dynamic here. And Zay Flowers is great. They need another complement there in the receiving game for Lamar Jackson. So going Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State, to
that
Baltimore.
really kills Tampa's next pick. I think it's the right pick. I like the pick that kills Tampa because I was looking at Tyson there, 6'2", big frame wide receiver to come in and kind of, replace that,
It would be a
Mike
good compliment
Evans
with Zay,
Yeah.
right? Like
It would be.
It really would be a good compliment for Zay Flowers, though. So I could see Baltimore sniping him here right before the Bucs. And to be fair, I mean the Bucs did just spend a first round pick on a wide receiver last year. Maybe they pivot, Mark, and they feel that we got Emeka Egbuka, as our guy of the future, and maybe we'll build or they'll go and target a wide receiver in the second round, something like that. But it just felt this is the route Baltimore's going to go.
I get it. I think Tampa now I look in and go, listen, they need a corner. I don't think now they're going to – I just don't see them going wide receiver here. If Tyson was still on the board, I think they'd like that. I think they like the size of Tyson. I think he would match well with what they want in the wide receiver. But I also think that Tampa, they need to shore up the back end of that defense. And I just feel like as you go, though, if you don't take Terrell now, Avian Terrell from Clemson, like the drop-off for me at the corner starts to really hit there. I like all three of the guys that have been taken so far. So I think Tampa goes, listen, we're going to go and get maybe what we believe is either the first or second best corner in the draft here at 15. and help shore up the back end of that defense against an Atlanta team that's going to throw the ball all around, against a New Orleans team that has weapons at wide receiver, and a Carolina team, obviously, that is improving at wide receiver and help the back end. So we'll go with Terrell from Clemson.
Fair enough. I like him a lot, and the ratings for him have been all over the board. But I do think he's one of those guys that can rise up boards and be one of those surprise first round corners that goes higher than most people think, because he's got a lot of raw tools. It's just probably not as polished, I would say, as maybe some other players. But the Bucks, they've had some really good success with corners, and so maybe he's the next one to kind of get them into that next phase. The New York Giants are back on the clock. We had them
Jets,
taking Arvell Reese earlier, or Jets, excuse me. Them taking Arvell Reese earlier, and now they're at an interesting position because they can fill literally any gap imaginable on their team. They could use a lot of help, certainly. Look, there's so many ways to go, and I struggle with the second Jets pick was the one I was struggling with a lot, because I felt that I could actually go a lot of different directions here. And I think I'm going to pull the trigger because it's the Jets. And I think it's just something that the Jets would do.
Go Ty Simpson.
Ty Simpson.
I don't have to listen.
Quarterback, Alabama, goes to the Jets here at 16.
I think,
pretty high for Ty Simpson to go. But look, I think Ty Simpson's going in the first round. I just think it's going to happen.
I'm starting to feel that way as well. I don't know if the Jets will do it here. I do think if not here, it'll be a trade somewhere in the 20s. Listen,
trading back, this would be a good opportunity for them to trade
if they
back,
could.
Sure.
I think there's other players on the board that Jets fans would be really happy with at this point in time, right? If that's the way that the draft fell out.
I was Denzel Boston was an option for me to pair him with Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
Any of the tackles
still.
Freeling was probably a top one that I was going to look at. They have him here as well, but he's a massive.
I think if there was corners still on the board, if there was one or two of those corners still on the board, they would go. They could certainly look there as well. Listen, I'm not going to veto it. I'll roll with it. I think that's fun. I like it. And it helps me out where I go to the Lions next, and I think they look at Freeling still on the board there from Georgia, and they go,
"Love it.
Let's go. We're going to take you." And I like Freeling. I like Lomo. I mean, when you look at some of the guys that were still there on our board as we're going through, tackle is. Again, it's a little bit of pick your poison. I think Freeling's a little bit more of a freak and a little bit more of, 6'7", 315, a little bit more of a project. But I think in Detroit makes a lot of sense. A lot of good, defenses in the NFC, a lot of good pass rushers in the NFC. And they have a very immobile quarterback. And I think getting a kid out of Georgia like that, who wouldn't have to start, right away at left tackle. You could move it right. You could be flexible with him. I think Freeling makes sense there. And I would take him probably. I like Proctor a lot. I think he's a little bit more of a project. Low move from Utah still on the board. I like him a lot, but I think that Freeling has got more upside, and I think the Lions would be okay with that.
Yeah, I think so too. So at 18, then we get the Minnesota Vikings. Interesting position. This is also a team I could see trading down and trying to acquire some more picks. It's a weird part of the draft. Oddly enough, they don't list it here as a team need, but I really do feel that if they want to fortify their depth, I don't think wide receivers off the table here for Minnesota. Jalen Naylor left. They have nobody behind Addison and Justin Jefferson. And knowing the three wide receiver sets that Kevin O'Connell would like to run, and you're bringing in Kyler Murray, you want to see if you can get the most out of your quarterback position currently. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but safety, there's still a really quality safety here available in Dylan Thieneman.
Thieneman
And so I think that's the route
from
I'm going to
Oregon, yeah.
go for Minnesota here. They, Harrison Smith for the longest time filled that gap for them. They need to address defense. And I think they go this route. And they could still address wide receiver later and get that depth they need without spending a premium price on it.
Makes sense.
And I like this guy. I really like Thieneman. I think he's going to be a really talented safety and a ball hawk at that. So, I mean, we're talking about he'll have the keys to the kingdom there in Minnesota that really needs to revamp that entire side.
I think Carolina would have loved to see him fall. I think he's a really talented player and he would fit well there. I think if the way the draft is shaking out for Carolina, I'm looking at what is here. I'll go with Lomu, the tackle from Utah. I think it's obviously a huge need for them. I think he's the best one on the board. Again, I like Caden Proctor. I like Caden Proctor a little bit more for a team that maybe has not an immediate need to start Caden Proctor. You could say, hey, we can start this journeyman for the first couple of games and really get Caden Proctor going. You're going to have some rough spots, I think, with a guy like Caden Proctor. I think less so with Lomu. Listen, Carolina, it's funny because it feels like for the last 5 years for Carolina, we're like, you just need to go get star players. Like you need impact players. And I think they're finally in a spot where it's like, just take the tackle. Like this is the smart decision. You're building something, fortify your offensive line and keep growing in that way. And so I'll go with Lomu to Carolina.
All right.
That's on the board.
That brings us to Dallas at 20. Now we just had Dallas pick the corner at 12, Mansour Delane. And now Dallas is back on the clock. Another probably key opportunity for them to trade out. But look, they addressed a big need on the defensive side of the ball. They could go Keldrick Falk. I like him a lot. I also like Akeem Mesidor. I like both of those choices. I also really like Caden Proctor from Alabama. And if we know anything about Dallas, they've had some success with their first round offensive linemen in the past, and they like their first round offensive linemen. They're going to pay the price here at 20 to get one and keep that from being a crumbling aspect of their team, because look, if this team's going to have success, it's going to be because of the offense, and any help you can give Dak to continue to keep that afloat is going to be a welcome side. So Caden Proctor from Alabama going here at 20. And now we've got a lot of offensive linemen
off the board, and there's not a ton left that I love that I really, really love. All right.
And you get my Pittsburgh Steelers here, the hometown pick for the draft.
I've been worried about this, and the way the draft is shaking out, it's not really. I'm going to confer with a couple other notes that I have here. That doesn't help me. He's already gone. He's already
sitting here gone. With the override of it.
Okay, so knowing that you can make this change, I will then go with what I think makes the most sense for them, depending on the way this board has shaken out. Obviously, we don't know what the future is with Aaron Rodgers 100%. Give me Woods, the defensive tackle from Clemson. I think this is a player that it's so funny because you think Pittsburgh, Mike McCarthy, we're going to go offense. But I mean, listen, they made the Pittman trade in the offseason. You have a really nice tight end room. You have now a really strong wide receiver room. You have Aaron Rodgers. You feel confident about the backfield. You're not taking a running back here. Obviously, there's no one totally available. I don't love taking a guard at 21. I think there's available, guards later in the second round. And so I think to me, Woods is a guy that could step in and really be, a crucial part of making sure that defense doesn't fall off. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's, someone that at this pick I'd feel comfortable being like, this guy's going to be a really good player for a long time.
Yeah, that I think he's going to be a really good player, and this pick would solidify that defensive line again for a long time. I am going to use my override, and I'll tell you why. You make a lot of good points. They took Derek Harmon with the first round pick right around this spot last year at defensive tackle. I don't see them going defensive tackle back-to-back years just because of the nature of that position. And since they're so well fortified on the edges, I think that they need to go wide receiver or offensive lineman here.
Wide receiver would have been my second. Who are you feeling fits that room? You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, look, I think Pittsburgh would be happy to have 3 massive humans be their wide receivers
with their giant.
They just have a giant team. So I don't think, and honestly, Pittman is probably going to be much more in their slot this year if they choose to go through 3 wide receiver sets, which is what McCarthy does. And Pittman is a really good slot receiver despite his frame. So I think that that's ultimately they want to get. They'll have Pittman and DK be their 1 and 2 in 2 receiver sets. When they bring a third in, slide Pittman to the slot and get another outside receiver. Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston have been on my radar back and forth for both of them. They would serve different needs. I think they would both fit for a variety of reasons. But I'm actually going to go offensive line.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Because I think it's what they're going to do.
So who are you going with then?
So here's who I'm going with, and I may have to go. Okay, Max Ihenachor. From Arizona State.
He's got a crazy story.
I'm taking
Have
him,
you
the
heard his
offensive
story?
tackle.
He's a guy who was like a high school basketball player who then went JUCO and only got into like Fresno State because of his JUCO coach, and then only got to Arizona State because they took Fresno State's guys, and they were like, we need this guy. He's a really it's just one of those stories where like that's like the beginning of like this guy's a Hall of Famer, you know what I mean? Where you're like,
right, yeah, a rags.
Well, yeah, and it's like he he never thought about playing football. He thought he was gonna be a basketball player, and they're like, no, dude, you're a mauler, you're an offensive lineman, and he is a mauler. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. And the whispers that I've heard from being dialed into a lot of the reporting around Pittsburgh's pick here is that they obviously want flexibility and versatility, which he provides. He's a guy that can play probably all 5 positions on the offensive line. Their biggest need on the O-line right now is left guard. That's the opening they have. But Adam Schefter just a couple days ago came out with a report that Broderick Jones, who they traded up to get just a few years ago at left tackle, he's had an up and down, unfortunate, start to his career. And then last year he got injured. He's been benched. The experiment kind of hasn't been working. And then Adam Schefter reported that he's had a setback in his recovery from injury last year. He may not be ready for the start of the season. So we're talking about an opening at left tackle and left guard. This is a guy that can serve either purpose for you and plug in and be a starter. If they get a guy like him, this is going to be, if not next year, the year after, one of the top 3 offensive lines in all football. I truly believe that. They have something brewing there, and this would just continue that. Then you've got the perfect base for a quarterback to come into either next year, or if it's Will Howard this year, something to work with. So that's why I think they go offensive line.
That's a great veto, because you knew what I didn't know, which is that the left guard and the left tackle may be completely open here to start the season.
Yeah. So I just think they need the versatility. They also only pick, like historically, last like 20 years, they've only picked people that they've brought in for those pre-draft visits, which you only get a limited number of, or the GM/head coach are at the pro day. Like their first round pick has only been someone that fit that criteria, and he's one of them.
Well, and listen, if you're going to go with Aaron Rodgers and you're going to try to make this year work with McCarthy, especially offensively,
you can't have him moving around.
All right, I got the charge. You got the Chargers at 22. Go for it.
I do have the Chargers here at 22. A lot of options here that they can go with. I think I'm going to go with the guy that you had. Look, Ola Ione. I cannot. There's so many.
I was hearing Ione, but maybe not.
He and Peter Woods are like the two where I'm like, man, they could
Harbaugh
really
would love either of those two guys. Right? Harbaugh loves the trenches. Yeah. I could see it.
I'm just gonna go with Peter Woods here. I feel like, let's shake it up a little bit, and they could really use some help on that side of the ball. Obviously, the offensive line is a big need for them, especially in the interior, but so is the defensive line. So yeah, I'm gonna have a Harbaugh going and getting. This is a really rough D tackle class, and Peter Woods is like a surefire, really solid player. So like if they were planning to punt a position further down the road, I'd feel better about guard than punting D tackle.
Easy one for me at Philly. I'm gonna go with Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana. Right. I like him a lot. He's big, he's tall, he's physical. He'll complement, obviously, is the new AJ Brown. Devontae Smith really well. And because Smith is there, he doesn't have the need to come in and be wide receiver number one. If they don't trade AJ Brown, though, Kenyon Sadiq here also, I feel like would be a really good pick for Philadelphia. They obviously need some help, edge rushers and stuff. I just don't know. When we get to this point in the draft, some of these edge rushers, I'm like, it's tough. Like, I don't have the best read on them. But I do know that Cooper's a really good player, and I think he would fit well in Philadelphia if they move on from A.J. Brown.
For sure. So the Browns are back here. We had them taking Carnell Tate earlier in the draft, so they got their premier wide receiver. Not going to address it again here at 24, but they've got big offensive line needs. And Ola Ione. However you say it. How do you say
I
it?
was hearing Ione, but
okay, so I got it.
I mean, it could be
right, Ione. Ola Ione, the best pure guard in this class. And, this is a unit that really needs positions filled at center, guard, and tackle. So to get the best available player at any of those positions, that's a run to the podium type of pick there for the Browns, and hopefully they can get their run game going a little bit better and get that protection in tow for Shedeur. So it seems like a no-brainer pick.
Listen, I like the pick. I think it's weird because the Browns, it feels like just like 2 years ago, had one of the best offensive line in football. And so it's crazy how things can just change so quickly to where you're Cleveland and you're saying, we got holes we need to fill. It's just, that's the nature of the beast in the NFL. We get to the Chicago Bears. I mean, listen, this Bears team has a lot of needs. I would love for, a stud safety to still have fallen somehow here. You know what I mean? I would love for one of the offensive tackles, a Caden Proctor, to have fallen this far. You know what I mean? The Bears need an offensive, probably going to need a tackle for most of the year. I mean, Braxton Jones right now is your starting left tackle, and that is really, really scary because we just don't, when your rookie who played well blows out his knee and you don't know when he's going to be back this year, if he's ever going to recover really from that injury. But if the draft is shaking the way it is, and we're not doing trades, and we're looking what's at the board, I like Kendrick Falk a lot. I like Casey Concepcion a lot. The Bears could use another wide receiver. That just feels a bit much, but it's exciting. You know what I mean? It would be really exciting. I think there's still some wide receiver talent later in the draft. And And when you have a guy like Ben Johnson, I don't think he needs that first rounder. I mean, you saw what Luther Burden, what they did with him as second rounder. Like I don't think you need to go first round. I think, God, if I'm Ryan Poles and I'm looking at these names and I'm looking at our needs, I would say, you know what? I have to prioritize making sure my offense stays on track and continues to grow. And I know this may drive Bears fans crazy, but I look at Blake Miller as a guy. I have a late first round grade on him.
I like him a lot.
Yeah. I mean, would I love it more if that name was Lomu or Freeling or Proctor? I think I feel a little bit more comfortable, but Blake Miller's a lower ceiling. But at this point, that's what the Bears need someone who's like, hey, you're going to come in here and you could just at 6'7", it's very, very similar build to Ozzy Trapillo, who was injured. We need a wall of a dude there to hold up on that left side so Caleb can just work some magic. And, as much as I hated for Trapillo, because there was points in time last year, I'm like, dude, we found our left tackle for the next 5 years. When you blow out your knee the way he didn't just tear an ACL. It's the patella tendon, you know what I mean? Like, and the rehab from that, like he did it late in the year. I don't know if he plays at all this year. And then I do know that if you draft a guy like Blake Miller and he comes and he plays well, then offensive tackle is a real strength in a year from now, right? And we're not worried about that at all. And that's what the Chicago Bears need. That's what they need. I hate it because I like Kendrick Falk, and I know the edge is such a need. It's such a need. But you have Turner, you have people coming back. Like I know, and Austin Booker, I think, was taking steps. I know it's not perfect. Trust me, I wish one of those top 3 or 4, 3 edges, falls. I wouldn't hate the Bears trading up if it's the right move for one of those elite edge rushers or one of the elite safeties. You know what I mean? Because those are to me the two biggest needs. Yes, you have to get some offensive line help, but there's a tackle you could probably find in the 3rd or 4th round that can help you rotate with a guy like, what's his name, who's going to end up starting, who's just been a pain in my ass for years. But I think Blake Miller is a guy that's like, sucks for Trapillo, but he could also be your left tackle of the future. And if you have a chance to get that, you got to lock that up. You've got to get it.
Yeah.
The injuries have killed the Bears that position, so you can't miss on it. So I don't love the pick. I'm not in love with the pick, me making it. But if that's the way it works on draft night, I'm not going to crap on the Bears for going offensive tackle late in the first round.
I don't think you can ever really get too disappointed with your team going offensive lineman unless that lineman is just so clearly, not a high quality pick.
And what do we say here? How many tackles have gone now in our mock round? We said there's about 6 guys who have like a first round grade.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6.
And those are the 6. I'm looking at my list of the 6. Those are all the names. Freeling, Einiker, Miller, Lomu, Fanu, Miami's, and then Caden Proctor as well. So, those are the guys. And from everyone I've seen, from Mel to Todd to everywhere in between, it's like there's a drop off after those 6 names. So, I hate to get the 6 out of 6, but I think Miller has just as much upside and as high of a ceiling as probably the 3 or 4 other tackles before him. I do think, from the kid from Miami, and Fanu, they're a little bit on a different level maybe, but we'll roll with this.
Sure. All right, the Bills are at 26 year. Edge or wide receiver are the 2 plays in my mind, and I'm going wide receiver. I just don't. I think with Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston available, I think they got to pull the trigger on one of these guys and really get Josh Allen some help there.
You going Concepcion?
I'm going Denzel Boston.
Oh, Boston, I like it.
I like him better, and I like him better for Buffalo in particular.
6'4", he's a big dude. Yeah, 210.
Reliable. He's really, really good in breakdown situations, and with Josh Allen being a great, scramble in the backfield, create. out of space, he's a guy that can pair well with him, be on the same page, and get those contested catches downfield. Like Josh Allen needs a super reliable wide receiver that he can count on to make these big plays. And we already got a really solid slot receiver in Khalil Shakir. So get a big bodied, high point catch and intelligent route runner like Boston. I think it's a really good fit.
Yeah, I like it. I think it makes a ton of sense. And now all of a sudden a weakness on that team with a trade and this draft pick all of a sudden becomes huge. And when you have your new head coach who's, the young offensive guy, it's like Joe Brady. It's like, all right, no excuses. Let's go get it done. I like it for the 49ers. Listen, I think for the 49ers, you're looking at O-line is a need, but they did just get Trent Williams signed. That was another tiny piece of news we missed.
Yeah, another 2-year, $50 million deal.
I think look at the other needs. I'm looking at edge rusher. I'm looking at wide receiver, and I think Casey Concepcion is a first round guy. And I think if he is still there for a team like the Niners, I think Shanahan would love to get a guy like him in his building to get creative with. So we'll go with KC there.
An interesting one that I was thinking too, I like it, and I would take that pick too, is the Kenyon Sadiq, because George Kittle, he's had injuries almost every year, right? And they really love their tight end play. This would be a good insurance. And he's an incredible athlete, but I love KC Concepcion here too. And I think that fits very well. The Texans are on the board. They could definitely use interior offensive linemen as well. I kind of felt that tight end was a little bit of a need for them too. Dalton Schultz, they've had, but it's not like they're paying him huge money. And they could obviously provide some help for CJ Stroud. And really, I would feel like that's like the missing piece, like another real dynamic element there. The missing piece to just making this a really well-rounded offense. I could see running back though, too. That's not out of the realm of possibility. I just don't see the value here at 28 for them there. So kind of going between defensive tackle, but I really liked Peter Woods for them, but he is gone at this point. Caden McDonald, I like him over Christian Miller.
Okay, yeah.
Personally, CJ Allen was an interesting choice, like if we wanted to go defensive side, but man, I feel like at this point they're going to pull the trigger on Kenyon Sadiq, just him falling this far.
I think I think we've messed up that Sadiq is getting picked at 28. I think he's probably going to go earlier than that.
I think so too. I think inside the top 20 is probably where he would fit. I thought the Panthers would have been a good fit for him as well. But yeah, I just, it's probably hard for the Texans to pass up on Sadiq when he's sitting here at 20.
Yeah, I mean, really, like if you look at,
he's so fast too that he could just be like an inline wide receiver for them.
Yeah, I think. I mean, listen. You look at a team like the Vikings. You look at a team like, the Chargers. I mean, like there's teams that you can say to yourself, "Screw it, we're going to go for it." Philly, like we're going to go. Like there's teams earlier.
Kansas City, right after them here.
I mean, I was going to go with Sadiq if you didn't go. I'm going to go Falk with Kansas City here. They need help on the defensive line. I think he's a first round talent. Again, with a lot of these edge guys, it's just, it can be tough. I mean, yeah, he's absurd. 6'6", 276. Like he's a big, long frame. I think the nice thing about Kansas City, listen, I know you just drafted 2 defensive players in this mock. I drafted them for you, but I think, listen, you look at, you say Spags and this team won Super Bowls and were making Super Bowls when their defense was playing at a really high level. And now they're just, you could say to yourself, you just got cheaper on defense, but was still high ceiling talent. And you would expect Spags to get a lot out of them. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Yes, they need help at wide receiver. I think they could use some interior offensive line depth and help. It's, but in the first round with 2 picks to go get a starting edge rusher and a starting corner, I think Kansas City would leave that pretty happy.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a really nice, well-rounded.
I think at 9, the key for Kansas City at 9 would be like, if for some reason Love or Tate falls, like it would be criminal for them not to take them. I think if it's not either of those two guys offensively, I think they look at if they're staying in those two spots and they're not trading back, which also I think Kansas City at 9 should try to trade back, right? Because if you trade back and you get an extra second rounder, right, and you go from 9 to like 13 or whatever, you know what I mean? And then you can take Sadiq there or a weapon there. Like Kansas City has some real holes to fill. And I think getting an extra second rounder or an extra first rounder or a first next year, they have high end expensive contracts. So getting more high end draft picks is just what this team needs right now.
Yeah. No, they have a lot of areas
Miami's
to fill.
Second.
So yeah, the more
second pick, where are you going?
Yeah. So we had them taking Caleb Downs, right? And so the defensive side, they can double down there. Wide receiver would be great here, but there have been, pretty much the rest of the, quote unquote first round talents gone. If there's one I would consider, it'd be Jeremy Bernard actually here from Alabama. I like him a lot. I think Miami could easily just double down on defense here. They've got a great defensive back, and pair that with Akeem Mesidor, the edge rusher from Miami.
Hometown kid.
I like him a lot. And man, I mean, Jeff Hafley would be just jumping up and down with these first two picks here to start his career. Mold that defense. They've been missing a defensive dominance for a long time. This would really help cure that. I think they'd have a really quality unit.
And they have a ton of needs on offense. So let's not mistake it. But I also think if you're Hafley, you look at this and go, I'm only getting fired in my first year if my defense stinks, because I'm a defensive guy, right? So I can't have what happened in New York with the Jets. I need to get interceptions. I need to get pressure. I need to show my imprint on this team. If Malik Willis and the offense struggles, be like, well, listen, it's Malik Willis. Like, we got to go get a quarterback, right? Like, you obviously want him to do well. You want all that to work, but you're getting fired if you – like, it's kind of crazy that Aaron Glenn didn't get fired. You're getting fired if your defense is inept, like Aaron Glenn's was. So I can see him standing on the table, and I like those two picks. I like taking a kid from the hometown school there. He was a good player. I mean, I have him right on the edge, you know what I mean, as a first, second round talent. So taking him at the end of the first is not a big deal. For New England, I love that Caden McDonald is still on the board. They need D-line help. Mike Vrabel needs help in the locker room. He's taking an Ohio State guy going back to the alma mater. We don't have to answer any questions about how our marriage is doing. We're just going to focus on the Ohio State connection. And that's really all you got to worry about. It will be interesting, though. I am looking forward to Mike Vrabel's first real press conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just not going to say anything. But I am interested. I really want to.
He's going to have to talk to the team. I heard a great response from I can't remember who it was, but as a former player who's like, he's got to say something. Like, you have to say something. Like, you cannot walk around this building preaching accountability and be like, nothing. Now, the only way he gets away with saying nothing, in my opinion, is if Rossini doesn't get divorced and he doesn't get divorced. If their marriages both survive this, right? And we don't know yet. We haven't heard anything yet. But if Vrabel's not getting divorced and Rossini doesn't get divorced, then maybe I can sit there and go, whatever that was, it wasn't enough for them to get divorced. But if one or both of them get divorced, you have to address it. Like, you have to address it. I don't care if you address it to the media.
I see that, but I could also see him addressing the team, but then saying, the media, I am not going to give life to any of this in the media. Like, I just, I have a feeling they're not going to get answers out of him for quotes and things like that. But maybe he'll address the team.
That's what I mean. Like, in the media, I don't know if we'll ever get anything. But I mean, if his wife is like not showing up and he's not wearing his wedding ring, like you got to say something, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And at that point, if I were him and
I hear
Rossini, if
ya.
they both get divorced, lean in and just start dating. Like you've got to lean into it, right?
Might as well at that point. Yeah, I mean, good lord, what are we
All
doing?
right, we move on.
All right, we'll round out the draft here with our 32 overall selection. The Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. I don't think they don't. There's not much pressure here with this
No.
pick for Seattle. Kenneth Walker is on the move. They like Zach Charbonnet, but they've shown that they like to have two running backs.
I love it.
I think why not? Let's have them go with Jadarian Price, the other Notre Dame running back, who has this upside that a lot of people are talking about. It's kind of like Jordan Brooks from Texas a few years back, right? Where everyone was like, "Oh, well, we're all talking about Bijan, but we've got Jordan Brooks here who's really, really good." So I don't know. I kind of think that Jadarian Price might end the draft here, but you do have an override.
No, I say that's fun. Let's leave it. I would say I like Washington more, though. I do think Washington's a really good back there, that kid out of Arkansas. But I think that's fun. Listen, they could use some offensive line help. They could use maybe a little depth at wide receiver. But again, if the way the draft is shaking out this way, like if they feel as though the second best running back is on the board for them to take, because listen, running backs second, third round, like that's when you want to take your running back. So if they feel like their guy is still there, why not? Like you're the Super Bowl champs. No one's going to really question you.
Pro Football Network gave us a B+ on the draft.
We'll take that. Listen, when you look at the amount of offensive tackles, the amount of edge rushers, the amount of wide receivers, that's where this draft is strongest. Like everyone, from what I feel confident saying to our listeners, from the people I trust and all of the draft stuff I've ingested over the last couple weeks, the draft is strongest at like the top 6-7 tackles, the top 5 or 6 wide receivers, and the top 4 or 5 edge rushers. Like those are elite players. And then there's, 1 or 2 really good players at other positions, but then, then it gets murky where you got to trust your GMs. You got to make the right move. So I feel as though we did right by this.
I agree. I like it. We addressed a lot of needs. We had a couple, go higher and or lower than they were, projected to go. So inserted a little bit of flavor in there too. But yeah, no, that was a fun one. Always like the mock draft. And as a reminder, this Thursday, 8:00 Eastern time, the first round of the NFL draft will commence, and we will be here live on the Football Lounge. If you want to watch at home and just listen along with us, please, we'd love to have you. You can chat with us live, of course, as always, in the chat. But if you want to join us on the live stream itself and come here prepared to talk about your team or just shoot the breeze, we'd love to have you. Let us know. Shoot us a DM. Hit us up on social media, and we'll get you a link to join the show day of. So that'll do it for us here on the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan. Our annual mock draft episode is in the books. We'll be posting this, of course, to social media too, and look forward to the NFL draft, the first round, coming up in just a few days.